Hello, I'm Otto, and welcome back to Dyson Sphere program. So in the last episode, we set up our yellow science, the structure matrix, using titanium crystals and diamonds. And we also set up a little bit of graphene. So it's not much, but it's definitely enough to get done what we need to get done in the near future. That is using the sulfuric acid. This is mostly just a little bit of a sink for the refined oil, and I also determined that we did not place enough of the water, the water pumps. So I did create a few extra. I have another 5. So we're gonna toss a few of these down. That's 4, and I have 1 extra, so let's just put that one back here somewhere. Okay, and before we get started with what we're doing with this episode, I do want to start to clear out our starter base here. It's becoming a little bit of an eyesore. I also said I was going to clear out my inventory, which I mostly did, except for these. But I also wanted to show, like, what are we gonna be doing with these? Oh no, not that. There we go. So let's get rid of our starter base. Okay, so with stuff like this, if it is burnable, I generally like to have somewhere to just kind of dump it, but we can also burn it off. So we're going to add just 1 thermal power plant and get our milestone unlocked. So this will start to burn through some of this, including the wood. If you had any like leaves or even diamonds, I don't know why you would want to burn diamonds, but you can burn those as well. Crystals, there's a lot of stuff that you can burn that maybe you shouldn't. Graphene, also burnable. Hydrogen, all of these very good to know. So I'm going to dump what little bit of inventory we picked up from that. Okay, so in this episode, we are going to start by starting the process of upgrading to from Mark 1 to Mark 2 assemblers. So we're going to need a few things. We're going to need an assembler down here. We are going to need some chests around it because we will be bringing in the items that we need. Let's give these some inputs and outputs. And we're going to need power. We are going to limit the graphene and the processors to 1 stack. And the output we're going to limit to 2. Now, thankfully, I brought some to get us started. But we are going to... Oh, let's get this queued up. Where did that go? There we go. So we do need to put some logistics in here. So we're going to set this to request, and that is going to be graphene. Thankfully, we already have graphene in here, so that this is going to automatically put what we're wanting to put in, and request that in. So those will start to go and do their own thing. We can also start to upgrade the bot. So if we go to the upgrades, we can upgrade their range. Like, I'm not too concerned with doing this right now. This just makes it so that they can cover more of the planet. I don't unlock these until it becomes more of an issue. Like if you have a logistics distributor and it says that it's out of range, then you can add to these. But we're aiming for these down here. So we have logistics, carrying capacity, and the bot flight speed. So these are pretty important for moving materials like that. We can also queue up some extra ones once we get through some of our other items. Look at that, now we have 15 already. So everyone knows that the first thing that you want to upgrade is the item that is doing the upgrading. So now these will craft even faster. We also want to start the process and upgrade some of the items that are making the items that we need. So we definitely want at least this one, but we're going to upgrade all of these as well. And another thing that I want to upgrade is the titanium crystals. So the organic crystals that we have here is not, like these 9 are not enough to fill 8 of the titanium crystals, and the 8 titanium crystals is not enough to fill up the research labs that we have here. And that's perfectly fine. If we get to a point where we don't have research going, then a lot of this stuff will kind of buffer. In my opinion, it is better to have too much than not enough. So something else that I wanted to address before we get into some of what we're doing in this episode is power. So you can see that we're around maybe 16 to 17% under where we want to be. And the reason why this matters is because all of these machines are, like, once the power dips below, you can see that they're not, they're still active, but they are going to be moving at around, let's say, 17 to 18% less speed than they would if we had full power. So that is the importance of that. 23 of these, that should be enough. So we are going to use more thermal power. We've been talking about using this patch up here, so now we are finally going to do it. This is a good point in the game around yellow science to actually start using them. And we are also using the upgraded belts now. We're using Mark II belts, and these move 12 items per second. That is good to know. Did I just bury? I just buried these.
Upgrade complete.
That was an accident. Okay. So we're going to try to set up as many of these as we can. We're using the Mark II belts now, so we're aiming for roughly 24 patches, whether that's, you know, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4 to get to 24, or a mix of various sizes. We're aiming for probably at least 5, and then if we, for instance, had 5 like that, then we probably want to aim for at least 7. That's another one that is 7. 8, oh my. 5, that's fine. Another 5. 4 is probably acceptable. So if we were to pair these up together, we have 6, 5, and 5. So we would really need 8 for this last one, let's say. And there's 8. So we can pair these 4 together. Over here we have 4, 5, 5, 8. So that's pretty close, not quite. Tell you what, let's do this. We're going to have these 4 paired together, and then these down on the end. That's 5, 5, and 4. So we'll call that half a belt. So we have a full belt here, a full belt over here, and then we'll call this half a belt. That is kind of important, and you will see why shortly. All right, so let's start with these 4 down here. This whole, like, squaring off the belts, I generally only do this early in the game. Once we get to towers, I will regularly, like, stop doing that and start doing something more along the lines of, like, this. and then just drag them wherever I need. Main reason why is because we will start tapping veins on planets, and I kind of stopped caring because we're not going to come back. So I'll just, it'll look something like this, just kind of getting as close as we can. I'm not gonna do that one just yet. These will meet up somewhere over here. Sure. Anyways. Alright, so we are going to drag these over here. Hopefully we can squeeze in what we need to squeeze in. So the thermal generators. These will typically, for the coal at least, they will consume roughly 1 per second. So we have about 12 per second on this belt, so we can use 12 of the thermal generators. They can also chain into each other. So we can get 3 wide and 4 deep like that. And that is how that's going to look. Also, something to note is as you start moving towards the tropic lines, you will get to a point where you no longer have enough space because of the way the curvature of the planet is. So you will start to run out of space like this. We're not going to chain this many together. This is just something to note. So in a case like this, as you started getting closer to the tropic lines, it might actually be better to just drag these back and go in this direction rather than start from the side that has the equator and moving out. Again, it's just something to know. We're not worried about it too much right now. All right, so let's get these connected, and they do chain together. So we are going to chain these like that. I can take this and drag these. And we'll wait and see and make sure that they have the no fuel. Okay, these just had a little bit of catching up, so those should be collecting soon enough. Do I have coal on me? There, just jump started a little bit. So then that will, like I said, roughly do 1 per second. So we have another full belt here. And then a partial belt over here. Yeah, so they're going to start separating at this point. Why did you not connect? Oh, they did connect. Okay, so let's just double check all these, make sure that these are going to be powered. We did not connect these. Okay, so looks like we will be fine. So that has now increased our power quite a bit, and if we needed to add some more, there are some more coal patches around. So there's one over here that we could use. There's another one back here that we could use. Yeah, there's a few of them around the map. 2 there, there's 1 out here. 1 here. 1 up here. Yeah, see, they're all over. So we could definitely tap quite a few of these. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to do is I want to use an area probably down here because we have a copper patch over here, which we will need, and an iron patch over here. So we're going to aim for working on this tropic section here. This is we're not going to like put this together like we've been doing with the wind turbines. We're just going to kind of like do it in a more fluid way. We're going to set it up more like what you would in a standard playthrough where you weren't using the wind turbines as a grid. So let's take a look at what we need. Let me do this up here actually so we can use these. So we are going to be making the turbines. We need quite a few of these, and we're going to be aiming for about 2 per second. So if you look, we can make 1 every 2 seconds. So to make 2 per second, we would need 4 of these, since we are crafting about half of 1 every second. Let's just go ahead and do that. So that is 4 of these machines will make 1 per 2 seconds. So we're going to make 4 of these machines. So these need the electric motors and the magnetic coils. And the electric motors need gears, so we are also going to have gears. The magnetic coils need magnets and copper. This needs iron plates, and then the gears also need iron plates. So we will need to be smelting 3 different things. Whoops. I'm just going to give these power so they're not bugging me with the blinking. Okay, so we determined that to get to 2 per second, we need 4 of these. So looking at the ingredients, we're going to need 2 of the electric motors every 2 seconds, or basically 1. We need to make 1 per second per machine. And these create 1 every 2 seconds. So we will need 8 of these. For 8 of these, we will need 8 per second, right? So if we have 8 of these, we need pretty much 1 per second for the iron plates per machine. So we will need 8 iron plates per second. We also need 1 gear every 2 seconds. So we need 1 gear machine for every 2 of the electric motors. So we need 4 of these, which will give us an additional 4 iron plates. So that brings us to 12 iron plates. So that is a full belt of iron plates. And then we also need, for the magnetic coils, we need 1 every 2 seconds. And then we also need 1 per second per machine here. So this will need 1 per second for 4 machines. This creates 2 every 1 second. So we will need 2 of these to make enough for the turbines. And for this, we needed 1 every 2 seconds times 8. We will need 4 of these for this as well. So we will need, that's right, 2 of these, right? Yes. We need half of 1 every second per machine, which is 4 per second, which is 2 of these machines. So we need 4 of these total, 4 of these total, 8 of these, and 4 of these. And that is everything that we need, except for we didn't cover these 2. The copper, we will need 1 per second, so we need 4 smelters making copper. And then for the magnets, if you remember, the magnets are created 1 every 1.5 seconds, so we will need 50% more than what this says. So we need 2 every 1 second, so that's 8 per second. And that means we need 12 of these. So we're going to need 12 of the iron ingots, 12 of the magnets, and 4 of the copper. So let's start to set that up. We're going to have the iron plates come out first, and I want to give ourselves a little bit of space. And like I said, we're not going to be using the turbines, so we are going to do more of a standard build. So I'm just dragging this out and hitting tab. That will give us a space in between. That gives us room for power poles. We're also going to need 12 of the magnets, so we can match that up. And we need 4 of the copper. We're going to do 6 just because it lines up a little bit better. Why not? Never mind. We only need 4 per second, so let's just leave it at that. For the incoming and outgoing, we're going to have incoming on the top. Let's get some of these out to help us craft all of this. These are going to be in the way. That's better. And then the outgoing for these are going to be on the bottom. Same with this, we're going to have incoming on the top, outgoing on the bottom. And the copper, we're just going to swing the copper around the back, I think. So it's going to look something like this. Sure. And all of these are going to be incoming from the top, outgoing from the bottom. And then we can, whoops, drag this, hit tab. Drag this, hit tab, and same there. Power, I'm not too concerned. We're only going to look at this the one time, so wherever it works, we can just have it and we're good. Okay, so that covers all of these smelting. We can get rid of those. So we're going to need gears. We're going to need probably the gears first. So the gears we're going to put on top. And we are not going to put this right next to this. We're going to leave a space. And we're going to hit tab a couple times because since we're coming up to the tropic and we're getting a little bit tighter as we move towards the poles, it is a little bit more of a problem. So we needed 4 of these. And which one needed copper? This one needed copper, so we're going to need 4 of these as well. The turbines, we needed 8, so we're going to toss this guy right in the middle. We want to have an extra space on the bottom side, so let's do it like this. Hit tab a couple times, and then we need 8 of those. And because the turbines need this one and this one, they can be on the bottom down here. I'm missing literally 1. There we go. Okay, let's line these up a little bit better. Actually, that was fine. Whatever, good enough for me. Okay, so we have iron plates coming through the bottom here. So the gears need the iron plates and the electric motors also need the iron plates. The gears we can output on the top, and these will need to go all the way down as well since all of these need gears.
Mineral depleted.
Only the magnetic coils needed the magnets, so these can come down to here and stop. the copper as well. The copper was just coming down to here because these are the only ones that need it. What else? So these needed the magnetic coil. So when we place these on a belt, which is going to be here, we want to place them on the back side, or on the back end of the belt, and then these will take from the front end of the belt, and then these will place onto a belt here and go all the way down for the turbines. And the turbines, since we can use this belt here, we're not going to use this middle section here because the overlap, because this machine needs something that's all the way across, we're not going to be able to have enough room. So we are going to output these on the bottom. And then we can have some kind of collection method here. And because we're making all of these are going to consume all, like the turbines are going to consume all of the electric motors. But just in case we ever get backed up on these for whatever reason, we could also add a collection for the motors. We don't really have anywhere that these are being collected at all anyways, so we can set up a collection for these and give those access to, or give the bots access to that. Okay, so we have all of this filled in. Now we need incoming and outgoing for these, so that's going to be covered here. We can drag that down. These will need to accept the gears, so we can do that in the middle. These will also be outputting onto this belt. This one is going out here, so this one will need to retrieve it from here. So you can see that this one crafts onto this line, this one picks it up from further down. This needed the, wait a minute, okay, that's right, this needed the magnet here, and that was everything for this, right? This needed gears, so this is going to be collecting from here as well. Alright, so this is iron plates, this is going in for the iron plates. The gears are coming out here and being collected in this way. Right? Okay, so that covers that. This one needed the magnet on the front and the copper in on the back. So that's everything. So now we can just drag these down. And now we, no, that was wrong. All right, so now let's take a look at these. So the turbine needed the, let's say the motor. The motor should be collected from the back, so we might have to shift these over. So, sorry, from behind where these are. So let's move this back. Like that. And that way these can collect from here and then collect from here, output onto this belt. So we're going to do one storage for this. Oh, and no, this is going to continue down, and we will do a storage for this as well. I'm using the bigger storage. We could have just used the smaller storage and had the splitter underneath, but I'm not too concerned with it, so we can just put a couple of these in like this, give it a logistics distributor, and allow this to distribute to others. This is going to be the turbines, and this one distribute to others. This will be the motors. Okay, so the last thing that we need to do is just kind of fill all this in. So I'm not going to bore you with this. I'm going to just fill this in real quick, set this up, and then we will check and make sure that everything is working. Okay, so here comes the copper, and let's make sure that everything is working. These seem to be working just fine. This is the rings. This is bringing in the copper, so these are working. This is working. The gears are working. And we have turbines? Yeah, we have turbines. Okay, so the very last thing that we're going to do before... I guess we don't need that one. So before we end the episode, I did say a long time ago, once we started doing the logistics upgrades, we were going to largely use these, once we started creating more, to start sustaining some of our belts and sorters over here. So this is the last thing that we're going to do. We are going to add in bots, and we're going to request in for this one. So all of those that we are creating over there, the bots will very, very slowly start to move those over. And speaking of bots being slow, let's go ahead and increase the capacity and the engine speed. Oh, we can actually go even farther. Even more? Oh my. Okay, and we could do the range if we wanted to, but I'm going to do some other upgrades. So let's look at the technologies. So we definitely want the super magnetic field generator sooner rather than later. Now that we have turbines, we can make some of those. Same with the particle container. We have the graphene that we need. We have the turbines. The turbines we have in mass, the graphene. We're going to be using a lot of different types of graphene. We also are going to be aiming towards getting the next belt upgrade. So we need the super magnetic rings for that, and the graphene, and the PLS. So this is a huge game changer. This effectively makes our logistics bots look like little tiny ants. These guys are going to be doing the bulk of the heavy work. This is typically how the mid-game and end-game are sustained, is using these towers and using the drones and whatchamacallits, the ships, the interstellar logistics vessels that come along with that. Okay, so that is what is on the horizon. We are going to start that process in the next episode. Hopefully, in the next episode, we will get our first planetary logistics stations, and normally that might involve some handcrafting. We are not going to be doing any handcrafting if possible. We're largely going to be using our new little logistics, the bot malls that we created. And another thing that we might consider doing is making a larger build for the processors as well. So that is in the near future. The processors and the turbines are generally some of the biggest bottlenecks that you'll have in the game. And so yeah, we have one covered, even though it's only 2 per second. And we might take a look at the processors, making a much larger section for the processors in the next episode. All right, so that is it for me. I will see you in the next episode, and thanks for watching.